Gopika, if I'm audible to you, can you please respond? You are not audible to me. Mind Magic Scheme, am I audible to you?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can 1 minute. Uh, yeah, 1 minute. I think participant is reaching.
Is my screen share visible now? Okay. Um, okay. Now it would be a little difficult if I cannot hear you, Gopika. Can you cross-check what is the issue on your side and try to fix this? Like you can change your earphones or be on speaker mode.
Gopika, please join to mobile phone. You're connecting audio. I think your speakers issue, mic issue. Please troubleshoot once.
Yeah, you can speak now. You have joined as Rashmita.
Yeah, I think echo is coming.
Okay, that's because you are on two phones now.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Okay, you can go on mute. Okay, cool then. Okay, I'm sharing my screen, and since this is our very first class, let's also have a quick introduction about ourselves, so that we'll come to know each other. So my name is Kiran, and I'll be your trainer for Katalon Studio Web Automation. Coming to my profile, I have 18 years experience in the software testing industry and have been doing these trainings for Mind Magics from close to last 5 years. I've been training corporates as well in multiple areas of testing, starting from manual testing to automation testing, performance testing, security testing, and a couple of areas on the DevOps, such as GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, GitHub Desktop, GitHub Actions, Jenkins, etc. And on the performance testing, I do trainings using JMeter and Gatling tool. On the security testing, I do trainings with Zap tool, Burp Suite, and a couple of other tools. That's my quick introduction for you. Maybe you can introduce yourself, please.
This is Gopika. I'm working as a Salesforce QA engineer and admin. Actually, recently in my company, they have introduced Katalon tool. I'm exploring the tool, but having a difficulties in some areas. That's why I have started taking these sessions.
Okay. And another thing that I need to know from you is you're looking to learn Katalon Studio web automation, right?
Web and mobile, both.
Web and mobile. Okay. But our course purely focuses only on the web automation, not on the mobile automation.
Okay, okay. So basically, I have started mobile also, but having some challenges. I have
Hmm.
opened the Catalan community tickets. I'm not getting any response from them, even though we are a licensed users.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Yeah. Because I'll tell you, the Catalan Studio tool is still not matured enough on the mobile application testing side. It's still getting evolved over there.
yeah, okay, okay.
Okay. So in this course, from my side, I will be teaching mostly the web automation only, not on the mobile automation. So that I wanted to let you know in advance because I don't teach mobile automation.
Sure, sure.
Okay. So give me a
Okay.
minute. I will.
Meanwhile, let me try to join from another laptop. So might be
Yeah.
hard.
Please.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. I hope you must have joined back. Can you please respond if you are back? Okay. So your name, is it Gopika or Reshmita? Okay, fine, Gopika. I'm sharing my screen. Obviously, you should be able to see this. I don't know whether MindMagic's team has given you the course correct syllabus or not, but this is the overall course syllabus. I would like to give you a quick synopsis of what I'm going to teach you. So these are the different chapters. If you see, we have close to some 23 chapters, which I have designed, keeping in mind, the features that are available in Katalon Studio for web automation. So I'll quickly go through them so that you will have an understanding of what I'm teaching you in this course. So in chapter 1, we will have quick introduction about this tool called Katalon Studio. And we will also have introduction about what are the different web locators available, which will help us to identify the objects on a given web-based application. Then in chapter 2, we'll go ahead and download the Katalon Studio tool. Then we'll install it and then we'll sign up and sign in. I think this step is already completed on your side, assuming that you have the licensed version. In chapter 3, I will... Yeah, I have allowed you. Yeah, I hope you're still able to hear me, right?
Hi, Kiran, can you hear? Kiran, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So this is my daughter's laptop. Sorry, that's why it's showing her name.
No problem. No problem. That's okay. Yeah. Yeah. So
I think
in...
company laptop has some restriction. That's why it's not allowing me to on.
Okay. Yeah, maybe that's right. That could be a reason.
So still we are in like tool installation, right? I have installed tool in my office laptop. Now it is expired. If I download in my personal laptop, I think does it allow me, or which means maybe through IP it won't give me a new license, right? I should.
Yeah. So on the laptop also, on your personal laptop also, you can download. We can download the free version of Katalon Studio,
Okay.
which means you don't have to use any license that your company has given. You can download it as an individual user. I will help you with that process.
Sure.
Yeah. So in chapter 3, we will focus on understanding the different automation types that are available in Katalon Studio, where we will see how to record and playback. There are also certain default keywords given in Katalon Studio tool. So we'll also look at those keywords which are helpful for us. Otherwise, you can write the Katalon Studio script also in Groovy language. That is also a possibility. I'll also talk about that in chapter 3. It's an introduction in chapter 3. In chapter 4, we will try to understand how we can use the Katalon Studio recorder tool. So there is a record facility given within the Katalon Studio tool. You can use the record button, generate the script, and play it back. And if you want to customize it, you can also customize it. So we'll look at that record, playback, and how the report will look like in chapter 4. In chapter 5, we will talk about important features like what is web spy and web object repository. So spy is essentially a feature in Katalon Studio that will help you to understand the object properties, such as what is the ID attribute, name attribute, class attribute, XPath attribute, CSS attribute. All those attributes can be auto-detected using web spy. And once to detect them, you can put them in a folder-like structure, which we call it as object repository. So that is also part of my chapter 5. So we'll discuss more on that in chapter 5. Then in chapter 6, we will also have a small demo of what we have discussed until chapter 5 by using the automation. And then in chapter 7, we will learn all the keywords that are provided by Katalon Studio. This is a very, very big chapter, very important. This chapter will take minimum 1 week or probably 10 days also to complete it. Here we will be learning all the defined and built-in keywords that Katalon Studio is providing to automate your web applications. So the keywords available are for browser level, for Windows, for checkboxes, for combo boxes, etc., which I have written clearly here. So we'll explore all these keywords as well in chapter 7 practically. See, wherever you see hands-on exercise next to any chapter, it means it is not a theoretical discussion. It is a practical training that we are doing it.
Okay.
Then in chapter 8, I will introduce you to the world of headless browsers, which means those browsers do not have any graphical user interface, which means we cannot see the browser, but the execution happens on that headless browser. So we will run our scripts generated in headful browsers, meaning those regular browsers that we use every day, like Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Microsoft Edge, etc. We will also run them on headless browsers of Chrome and Firefox. So that also I'll show you here. Then we have chapter 9, how to reuse our existing test cases. So in our project, we write so many test cases, and how can I call one test case from another test case so that you don't have to write it again and again. So one line of code can be written to call some other test case in a new test case. That we will see in chapter 9. And in chapter 10, I will introduce the concept of test suites. The test suite is nothing but combination of your test cases. Initially, we write test cases, and a test case will have test steps. When I combine multiple test steps, it becomes one test case. When I combine multiple test cases, it becomes one test suite. So how do you create a test suite? That's the objective of chapter 10. And why do you create a test suite? That's the another objective of test suite and chapter 10, and how to execute it. That's what I'm going to show you in chapter 10. Again, in chapter 11, we have test suite collection. So if you look at this will be a little simple. So usually we write a lot of test steps, and that becomes a test case. And when you write multiple test cases and club them, it becomes a test suite. And when you combine multiple test suites together, it becomes a test suite collection. So this is the hierarchy you will see in Katalon Studio. So chapter 11 will focus on how do you combine multiple test suites so that one test suite collection can be created. And once you create it, how do you execute it? How do you run it? That is the objective of chapter 11. Then in chapter 12, we have generating the test logs and test reports, which is important. So whenever we run a project, the intention is to generate a test report. So once you create a test suite or test suite collection, you can generate test reports in 4 different formats: PDF format, HTML format, CSV format, XML format. So I'll show you the process of generating these 4 reports so that you can share those reports with your development team if they need it. And in chapter 13, we will discuss about a setting that will help us to send an automated test report to your development team or project team. Okay. So like whenever the test execution is completed, you don't have to manually send a report. The tool itself will tell you, can I send a report? And you have to just configure the tool to whom the report has to be sent. How should the email template look like? All those predefined settings, if you configure, Katalon Studio will take care of sending the report to the development team. And in that process, you might also want to send any screenshots that has some failures or a video that has been already taken by Katalon Studio so that you can send that video recording also to your developers. So Katalon tool has a setting where you can tell the tool, hey, please record all the execution process and send it as a attachment to my developer, or take a screenshot of all the failure scenarios and send it to my developer. So those settings can be done in chapter 14. And in chapter 15, we have another tool of Katalon Studio called Katalon Test Operations or Test Ops. This is more like a centralized tool where all your executions that you are doing in Katalon will be recorded, and a dashboard report will be created, which says like on Monday, what was the process? What was the output of execution process? On Tuesday, what is output? Or on the last 1 week, in the last 1 week, how is the execution happening? Like 10% has failed, 90% has passed. 80% of the execution happened on Firefox, 20% of execution happened on Chrome, 90% of execution happened on Windows operating system, 10% happened on Mac operating system. So those kind of outputs is what this test ops tool will give you, which is useful for your team lead, your manager, or your client or your developer to understand at a holistic level the summary of your execution from the last 1 week, from the last 1 month, from the last 3 months, or from the last 6 months. This is like a dashboard tool, which I'll show it to you. Then chapter 16 introduces us to the world of variables in Katalon Studio, where we will discuss about global variables, environment variables. We'll talk about local variables, environment profiles, all those things. So chapter 17 is all about the environment profiles, which is nothing but these variables. And chapter 18, we will talk about data-driven automation testing, where you will supply the data from a CSV file or an Excel sheet to the Katalon Studio tool so that it will run the same test case for multiple sets of test data. Something like this. Let's say I have a login application and I have automated the username and password process. So I want to test username for 3 different login names. I want to test for Kiran. I want to test for Mind Magics. I want to test for Gopika as the username. And for the passwords,
Like a profile.
yeah. So these are the different usernames and these are the different passwords. I want to try my Katalon Studio. So this is nothing but your data-driven automation testing, which is chapter 18. Then we have chapter 19, where we have some plugins in the Katalon store. So if you go to Katalon store, there are so many plugins available for practice. And we will use this Katalon plugins to see how you can leverage additional functionality in Katalon store. Chapter 20 talks about how to debug your automation when it fails, all those things. Chapter 21 is like, can I create my own custom keywords? The answer is yes, you can create your own keywords, which means you can write lots of lines of code and convert all those lines of code into one single keyword. And you can call that one single keyword anywhere, and that line of code will be automatically executed. And chapter 22 is another framework within Katalon Studio called annotations, something similar to TestNG framework, which you had in Selenium automation. So using these annotations, you can prioritize your test case execution. Like what should be executed in my lines of code first. So that prioritization, deprioritization can happen using listeners and annotations. And certain miscellaneous examples that I'm going to take, which is already covered from the last 22 chapters, but I have written explicitly here. Okay, so this is what I have in our course. So any questions that you have for me?
No questions.
Yeah, cool. So this is just a quick discussion about what I teach to you and what you are going to learn in this course. So we'll get started with chapter 1 today.
Okay.
So what is Katalon Studio? Right? Let us try to understand what is Katalon Studio. So you can visit their official website. So let me also do that, katalon.com. Yeah. So this is the official website for Katalon Studio tool. So Katalon itself is a product-based software organization, which is behind the development of Katalon Studio tool. They have their head offices in the United States. And this company has designed this powerful tool called Katalon Studio. And this helps us to automate a lot of actions. Like I can use Katalon Studio tool. So I'll say Katalon Studio tool can be used to automate web applications. You can automate APIs. You can automate mobile apps. You can automate Windows-based applications. So these are the 4 things that Katalon Studio tool has come up with to automate. In this, this is still not so matured. This is also still not so matured in terms of automation. Web automation is a little bit better, and API automation is also a little bit better. And another advantage that we have with Katalon Studio tool is it's a tool which has its own graphical user interface. Meaning the tool does not say that I don't have a user interface. The tool has a rich graphical user interface. And since it has a rich user interface, there is very less necessity to write code, which means they promote themselves as no coding or less coding. So the test engineer don't have to code a lot of things, because most of the automation can be done by using the configuration within the tool, using the keywords which they have already designed and developed. Okay, and moreover, this tool supports execution on multiple browsers, and it works on multiple operating systems. And you can generate test reports in multiple formats: CSV, HTML, XML, PDF. One second. Yeah, I'm back. So the tool supports multiple test reports: CSV report, HTML, XML, PDF, etc. And apart from this, the tool also provides another tool called Katalon desktops, like I was telling you. This will give you all centralized dashboard reports, which will help your management team understand what is my testing team doing for the last 1 week, or last 1 month, or last 3 months, or last 6 months, and how is the execution happening. So this tool will tell you what is the pass percentage versus failure percentage of your automation execution. It will give you a report based on browsers. It will give you a report based on operating system. It will give you a report based on the number of days, or number of weeks, or number of months. So you can filter a lot of things in this Katalon desktops tool. And that's what you see here, desktops. So this one's talking about it. Okay. And coming to how do we download this tool, you can probably do it once to come to katalon.com. What you can do is come to this download studio. You see here itself you have download studio. So once you click on this download studio, it will download the Katalon studio tool. So when I click on this download studio, see, you get this download Katalon studio, and here you have download button. You have to click on this download button. So katalon.com/download is the website that you have to visit to download Katalon studio tool on your personal laptop. And it might ask you to log in the process. Like you see, I have downloaded it freshly on my computer before this class. So I have just downloaded this yesterday, the latest version. So this one. So once you click on this download button, this file will come. Katalon setup.exe will be downloaded. I did it yesterday on my computer, 28th January. And once you double click it, this will start the installation. And it might take like 15 minutes to some 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, it will pop up you with this kind of message: sign into your Katalon studio tool. So once you see this, either you can continue with your Google account or GitHub account, or you can provide a new username and password, and then you can sign up. So what I'll do, I'll sign up with my Google account so that I don't have to remember my username and password. So click on continue with Google. And I'll download with one of my free accounts that I have. And it should log me in. See, successfully logged in into Katalon Studio. You can close this page and return to the IDE. And then I see the message, get started with the studio. And it says select a project to type to start your walkthrough with Katalon Studio. This is just a walkthrough tool. So I'll just choose the default options and click on continue so that I can come directly to my login screen. So here you see, it is talking about this error message. You currently have no teams to work on. Please contact your admin to invite. So when you get these kind of errors, you can simply say, you can ignore that message and just close this window and click on maybe later. And now it has brought us to the home page. Okay, so we'll talk about all these things a little later. I'll minimize this. Okay, but for your personal laptop, please come to this page later, download Katalon Studio and click on download and install the setup after our class is completed.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So we will now, I think what I wanted to talk about is in chapter 1, understanding the web locators and the techniques. This is very important for any automation tester to know. Now, what is this web locators? Let me tell you. So when I take you to any sample application, okay, let us take any application. Yeah. Okay, this is one of the sample application available on the internet. Let's say we have to automate this application, which is the login functionality. So here, if you see, the very first thing an automation tester has to do is identify the objects that is necessary for your manual testing process or automation testing process and understand their attributes. So if I have to automate this login process, so what do we do if I have to automate it? What is the manual step? Step 1 is open the application on a browser.
Yes.
Step 2 is we say enter the username, where in the username text box. Step 3 is enter the password in the password text box. Step 4 is click on login button. So these are the steps that you will write, right? So these are the test case steps. Or I can simply say test steps. So here if you see the second text box, enter the username in the username text box. Let's say the username is Gopika, so I will write Gopika here. And let's say the password is 12345, so I'll just write 12345. So now here I've done step 2 and step 3 manually. I want Katalon Studio tool in the future to do this process of entering the username and the password, which means I have to tell the tool how to identify the username text box and how to identify the password text box. So if I tell Gopika saying that, hey Gopika, enter the username as Kiran. So where will you enter username as Kiran? Here will you enter or here will you enter?
Username in username box.
Correct. Username you will enter in the username text box, meaning here you will enter it as Kiran. Why? Because you are a human being and you know what is username text box. Because we read the word here, right? Username. So you read this and then you tell yourself that, hey, this is the area where Kiran is talking about entering the username. You won't enter Kiran as the username here because you can clearly read it is a password field. So as a human being, you have the power and the common sense to figure out which is username box, which is password box. Finally, when I ask Gopika to click on login button, so will you click on this button or will you click on this button? The orange button you will click, right?
Login.
Because again we are human beings, we read it, we see with our eyes that this is the login button, so you will click on this login button. But how does the Katalon Studio tool know which is username box, which is password box, which is login button, which is forgot your password? Katalon Studio tool is no human being, so the tool does not know it. So the test engineer, the test engineer has to teach the web objects and their properties or attributes and their attributes to the Katalon Studio tool. So what are the web objects that you see right now? 3 objects. One is username text box. So this is web object 1. Second web object 2 is your password text box, because that is the area where you are writing something. And the object 3 you have is login button, because that is where you are clicking and you are doing an action. So these 3 objects, username, password, and login button, you know as a human being, but Katalon Studio tool does not know. So I have to teach Katalon Studio tool what is object 1, what is object 2, what is object 3. And I should also teach how to identify object 1, how to identify object 2, how to identify object 3. So that process of teaching how to identify objects, how to identify web objects, that process is done using web locator techniques. So just like if I say how Gopika is able to detect username box, password box, login box, my answer is she is a human being. Fine, she is a human being, but how is she doing as a human being? Then my answer is human beings have got organs like eyes are the main organs that we are using, or senses, whatever, that we are using to detect these three objects. So just as human being has got eyes, automation tools needs this technology called web locator techniques to identify text box 1, to identify text box 2, and to identify the login button. So what are the different ways to identify web locators? That is what I'm going to show you in today's class. So what are the web locator techniques available? Like for human being, ICE is the only way to detect which is username and which is password. But for automation tool, there are so many web locator techniques available to identify object 1, object 2, object 3, and any other object in the world. So one such attribute is called ID. ID means a unique identifier given for an object by the developers when they developed it. 2, you have name attribute. So the developer will write a name attribute to each object while developing the application. Then you have type. So it will talk about what type of object it is. Like, is it an object that accepts input, or it is an object that does not accept input, something like that. Then you have class attribute. Class attribute will tell me to which class that object belongs. Like, does it belong to text class, or button class, or drop down class, or checkbox class, etc. Then you have something called XPath. XPath stands for XML path. So what is the path to go until that username text box? What is the path to go until password text box? What is the XML path to go until login button? That's another web locator technique available. Then you have CSS, which stands for Cascade Style Sheets. That is another path available to arrive at login button or password box or username box. Then you have something called link text. So this is another web locator available to identify the hyperlinks present on the website. So here, if you see, do we have any hyperlink? Yes. So here you see there is a link available. So to identify this, there is a technique called link text. And there is one more called partial link text. So partial link text is what do you call? You don't have to write the full URL to identify that link. You can give only half of the URL or 30% of the URL text to identify it. So the last two are very rarely used, but they are used to identify only links in the application. Most of the times we use ID attribute or name attribute or XPath attribute. So this is mostly used in any automation, need not be Katalon. So these are the ones that are mostly used in automation process to identify an object. So how do I capture all these 8 properties? That is what I'm going to show you. But do you have any questions until this point? Hello, Gopika, looks like I lost you. Are you there?
Hi, Kiran. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Gopika, I can hear you. Looks like I lost you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what was the last thing you heard from me? I was talking actually, and then suddenly I realized I lost you.
CSS.
CSS. Okay. So CSS stands for Cascade Style Sheets, and it is also a kind of path used by developers to identify an object. Okay, let me put it like this. Yeah. Then you have link text and partial link text, which are used to identify the links present in the website, and they are very rarely used. So coming to the web locators that are predominantly used in automation is ID attribute, name attribute, and XPath attribute and CSS attributes. Okay, so any questions until this point?
No questions. I'm clear on this.
Yeah. So how do we capture all these attributes? Like so these are the ways how developers will identify any web application object on their browser, right? So let's say in this particular demo application which I have, how can I identify these properties? So there are multiple ways how you can identify it. So there are different tools available. So tools available to identify web locator techniques. So the answer is there are multiple tools available in the internet. Obviously, there is no need to to learn all these tools. The first one itself is the tool provided by your browser only. So browser provides something called as browser dev tools, browser development tools. You can use Chrome browser, Firefox browser, or any other browser of your choice and identify the ID attribute, the name attribute, and these kind of attributes. Using the browser itself, you can identify. How? Let me show that to you. Let's say I want to identify the properties of this username text box. So to identify the properties of username text box, click on the username text box. Then you can right click. And once you right click, at the bottom, you have an option called inspect. So now you are going to inspect this username text box. So click on inspect. And you see on the right hand side, some screen has come up. And here you see automatically a line of code got highlighted because you right clicked on it and clicked on inspect. So this code automatically got highlighted. So which means this is the line of code written by your developer to identify this text box called username text box. So here I can see the word input. If you see, the word input is there, meaning this text box is going to accept input. That is the meaning of the word input. Then you have class attribute. So the class attribute is given as oxd-input. So I'll just copy it and I'll paste it here. So we were able to identify the username text box attributes. So this is the class attribute for username text box. And here you see the name attribute is also there. So the name attribute is username. I'll just Control C and paste it on my notepad. So we also came to know what is the name attribute. And then you have placeholder, okay, then autofocus, etc. So we have only this kind of information present for the username text box. We don't see the ID attribute. We don't see the type attribute. We don't see the class, XPath, CSS, and these attributes. There are two reasons why it is not coming. Reason one, ID attribute may not be defined by developer. Okay, that's why it is not coming. Or he has defined it, but he's hiding it here. That could also be a reason. And why I cannot see XPath? You cannot see XPath directly here. So to see the XPath or the ID attribute, what you can do is right click on this highlighted piece of code. Okay, let us right click on it.
Okay.
When you right click, you see options like add attribute, edit, etc., etc. Don't click on all these options. Come to copy option.
Okay.
In the copy, you have options, copy selector. So this is your CSS. The CSS stands for Cascade Style Sheets, which is nothing but copy selector. If you click on it, CSS path will be automatically generated and copied. So click on copy selector and come back to your notepad and just paste it because you copied something.
Mm.
So this is your CSS path. Very big one they have given, but this is a CSS path. Meaning this is a CSS attribute.
Okay.
Let us right click again, come to copy. This time I will come to, see, copy XPath is there.
Uh-huh.
Click on copy XPath and come here and say your XPath is pasted. So this is the XPath to arrive at this particular username text box.
Mm.
And here you see the ID attribute is also defined. ID equals to app. So ID attribute is defined, but it is hidden.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the hierarchical path given by the developer to come until username. So this path has, you see, a lot of div1, div2, form1, div1, div2. So this is nothing but this one, this div, this division, this division, this division, this division, this input, this div. So from the top, how can you come until here? That is the path given here. But this path is very dangerous path, because tomorrow if the developer changes this div1 to div2, this entire path collapses and it will fail.
Yes.
So there is another XPath also given, I guess. Let us right click, click on copy, click on copy full XPath and see what it says. This is also giving a similar path like div1, div2. So both the XPaths are not coming properly. Most of the times XPaths should not have your div1, div2, because it is bound to change in the future and your XPath will fail to identify the username text box. So here XPath has two types. One is absolute XPath, the other is relative XPath. Absolute XPath is what you see on the top. This is giving you the entire path. Relative XPath will give you directly something like how to identify this object using the name attribute or using the class attribute or using the ID attribute. So relative XPath is always preferred over absolute XPath, because absolute XPath will look very big like this, and anything in the path can change in the future whenever a developer makes a change to the user interface of the application. So I will show you how to find a better relative XPath using another technique. With the browser, we are not able to find it. That's a drawback we have in the browser developer tools. Now what I'll do, I'll see if I can figure out similar properties for password text box also. So come to password text box, right click and click on inspect. And you see here this line of code got activated. And here you can see the class attribute. And here you can see the type attribute. And here you can see the name attribute. So three attributes are defined here: class, type, and name. And if I want XPath attribute, right click, copy, come to copy XPath, and just paste it in your notepad and see. See, it is coming as absolute XPath. Not very good. We don't recommend that. Let us right click and see if I can copy the CSS path, which is copy selector.
Mm-hmm.
And let us see what it copied. So it also copied very big one. Usually we don't entertain this big of paths.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but anyways, we are finding it. The objective of today's class is finding it, not deciding which is tool, which is better and which is not better.
Mm-hmm.
So let us do it for login button. So right click on login button and click on inspect.
Mm-hmm.
And this line of code got activated. So first it has the type attribute. Type attribute is submit class. So this is for login button. So you see type attribute is submit button. Then the class attribute is also there, which is very big. That's it. Only two properties are defined. But can I find the other properties? Right click, copy,
CS.
selector. So CSS is equal to this, very big. So I don't encourage it.
Mm-hmm.
Let us see XPath. Right click, copy, copy XPath.
Mm-hmm.
This is also very big, so not encourageable. So it is better we use only type attribute to identify it. XPath and CSS can be used, but not generally recommended because they are very big. It looks like a vulnerable path which can change in the future.
Okay.
So this is one way how you can identify using the browser dev tools. So this screen that you see on the right side is called as browser dev tools. This is one way how you can identify. There is another way how you can identify by installing a Chrome plugin. If you are on Firefox browser, install the plugin for Firefox. I am on Chrome, so I'm installing the Chrome plugin, and the plugin name is Selectors Hub. It's a free plugin, anyone can install. So what you can do is, if you want to install this plugin, come to your Google Chrome browser and just type download Selectors Hub for Chrome. And here you get the link. So click on it. And you get this Selectors Hub. So I'll also give this URL if you want.
Yeah.
It's one-time installation on our browsers. And here I have the option add to Chrome browser. So click on add to Chrome. And one more confirmation, add the extension. I'll say yes. Click on add extension. And the plugin gets installed to your Chrome browser. And that plugin will help you how to identify CSS path, XPath, and everything. So the plugin is added. And it also takes you to install another plugin. We don't need all these things. Just close this. And once the plugin is installed, here you have an option in Chrome browser called extensions. If you click on extensions, you see Selectors Hub is here. Click on pin. So it will come here. Easily you can bring it on. Now I want to identify the attributes for username text box using the plugin I have installed. So right click on the Chrome browser. Now instead of clicking on inspect, this plugin is there, Selectors Hub, which we have installed. So it will tell me directly all the copy options. So I want ID. So click on copy the ID. And now the ID attribute of username text box. So this is for username text box. I'm pasting it. Oh, something. Right click. Copy the ID. One thing, it did not copy correctly. Let's try copy name. No. Okay, I will refresh. Now it's working. I think we should refresh the browser, otherwise it is not working. So it says ID attribute is not available for this element because developer did not define it. Now let us right click, click on copy name and paste it anywhere. And you see this is the name attribute. So again, right click, go to Selectors Hub, copy relay to XPath and type here relay to XPath. You see now the XPath is very short, right? It is not coming like this.
Like this.
So it is coming easily using the name attribute or the placeholder attribute. Again, let us come here and let's say you want CSS selector. Click on it and CSS is equal to this one, a very small one. See, it is not coming like this. So this plugin that we have installed is giving you very short and sweet values for the attributes available. So right click. If you want any other paths, you can click on them. But I think ID, name, XPath, CSS is more than enough. Now let us do this for password text box and see if we can identify. So right click on password, Selectors Hub, click on copy ID and paste it. But you see the message ID attribute is not available for this element. The developer did not define it.
Yeah, maybe it's encrypted.
No, not encrypted. The developer did not define at all.
Okay.
Then you have the name attribute. So click on copy name and let's just paste it here.
Mm.
So we have the name attribute as password.
Pass.
Then let's try if I can capture the XPath. Right click, selectors hub, click on copy relay to XPath and paste it. Yeah, you got a very small, sweet XPath.
Mm.
Let us identify CSS. Right click and relay to CSS selector. Paste it. So you got it.
Okay.
Now let us do it for login button. So right click on login button, selectors hub, click on copy ID. Here also ID attribute is not defined.
Mm.
Right click on copy name. So name attribute is also not defined for login button.
Maybe export.
Relay to XPath, let's try. Yeah, so relay to XPath is there.
Mm.
And let's try the CSS selector. Yeah, it is there.
Okay.
So using this simple plugin selectors hub in, we don't have to really work anything. So
Okay.
I have told you two different ways. One is browser dev tools, for which you don't need to install anything, and then the other one is using the Chrome plugin selectors hub. So which is recommended? I would say this is recommended.
Yeah.
It
Actually,
is
I have
easy.
tried using inspect. Many
Okay.
times, as you said, when I rerun the same script, the XPath is getting changed. So every time script is getting failed, basically.
Okay, okay. So that's the area where you can use this plugin
So,
selectors hub
yeah,
and
yeah.
capture the relative XPath, which looks something like this.
This, okay.
So if your XPath is containing like this, like div1, HTML, div2, that is okay for the time being, but it might fail tomorrow.
Yeah, we are keep trying the tidy app, something like login page like that. But yeah, as you said, first time it is okay. Second time, if we try the same test case, it is failing because of XPath.
Correct. Correct. So the recommendation is from now onwards, you can use this plugin selectors hub and you can install it.
Yes.
There is also a third way, but I'll teach that later, which is using Katalon Studio tool itself.
Oh,
Using
okay.
the tool only, we can identify the XPath, CSS, ID, name, type, class, link text, partial link text, all those things you can identify using the tool itself.
Mm.
That I'll show it to you maybe in tomorrow's class.
Sure.
Okay. So whatever notes, I mean, right now, if you see, I'm writing completely on a notepad, which is a rough notes.
Uh-huh.
So I'll share the notes to you in a Google Drive folder,
Okay.
and I'll be making it available for you starting from tomorrow's class.
Sure.
Okay. So you are okay with these timings, right? And
Yes.
you're from India or outside?
See, I'm in Texas.
Okay. Okay. So this
Yes.
time works for you, right? This is my
Yes.
morning 7 to 8.
Okay. Yeah. This time works for me.
Okay. Good. So every day we will have 1 hour class.
I mean, if you want, like 8 to 9, also fine for me. Like for me, 8:30 to 9:30. For you, 8 to 9.
Oh, okay, okay. I think this time 7 to 8 only works because again I have to drop my kids to school starting from 8:30.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
so 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. should be good enough. And every day we will have 1 hour class.
Mm.
And whatever notes I'm writing, I'll put it on the Google Drive and I will share it with you via the Google Drive only so that you can refer my notes.
Mm.
And the classes are getting recorded and you will get access to these videos, recorded videos from the Mind Magic's team. So my request is send an email to Mind Magic's team and tell them to give you access to all the classes on a daily basis and give them your email address so that they will give video access to that email address.
Okay. Okay.
So even today's class, if you want to listen one more time, then you have to ask Mind Magic's team.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I'll listen because starting up the class, some distraction was there, so I'll listen.
Yeah, sure, sure. Okay then. So I will see you again tomorrow.
I have one question actually. So
Yes.
I'm
go ahead.
trying to capture the, but in my Salesforce application, I'm trying to add the member for one of the account. That member is a lookup basically. I'm not able to capture that lookup as user. So which item I can use? I tried with enhanced click. I tried with set text. Nothing is working.
Oh. So what is that field? Is it a field that accepts input?
Yeah, it is a lookup basically.
Okay.
Lookup and add a user. Like from the lookup, you will see some like 4 or 5 users. You can select one user from the lookup. Where you see the magnifying glass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right.
otherwise, yeah, it's already 8:34, right? Maybe it will be late for you. So tomorrow, end of the class or starting of the class, I'll share my screen, then we can take a look.
Okay. Okay. Sure. Sure. Tomorrow that we can do that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Gopika. Bye.
Bye.